Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today I have the pleasure and honor of having Brooke Lively with us today, and we're going to talk about scaling law firms and her new book, Scaling Law. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate you having me back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for those that don't know you, can you tell a little bit about yourself, the fractional stuff and the other stuff you're doing and EOS and the whole ball of wax?
The whole ball of wax? If I do the whole ball of wax, we're going to be here for a really long time, Ken.
Well, give me a small one.
Small ball of wax. Okay. So about, I don't even know anymore, 12, 15 years ago, I started a fractional CFO company for law firms. And I did this because I was running my family firm and I hired someone to help with sales and marketing. And his clients came to me and said, can you do for us what you're doing for your family? And that was when I understood that most law firms don't run on numbers. They run on gut feel. And if I could help people with the strategy behind growing and give them the comfort that numbers actually can bring, data can give you, then that was really important. So I did that. And when we did that, we started looking at our clients and we noticed that we could divide our clients into kind of three buckets. There was bucket number one, and those people started working with us. And if you looked at a graph of their results, it was like everything was high and to the right. Just think hockey stick, exactly what you want to see. We're like, awesome, we're doing a good job. Then there was bucket number two, and these people were making good progress. And then it was steady, wasn't hockey stick, but it was good. And then there was bucket number three, and Ken, you couldn't even tell they were working with us. And like, what in the world are we doing with bucket number one that we're not doing with bucket number three? Like, how are we failing these firms? So we're a bunch of data-driven ladies. So we dug into the data and we found that we were giving the same types of advice. We were using the same data, the same models. The difference was that bucket number one was executing and bucket three wasn't. And we thought that was fascinating. So we kept digging. I mean, at this point, we knew it wasn't us, but we're like, okay, what enables bucket one to execute so well? And what is standing in bucket three's way? Because they all want to do it. And what we discovered was, with the exception of one firm, every single firm in bucket number one was running on EOS. And for those of you that don't know, EOS is the entrepreneurial operating system. It was started by Gino Wickman about, 20 years ago, Ken?
Yeah, something like that.
So that became our number one outgoing referral. We're like, go find an EOS implementer. Go. And our firms kept coming back to us and saying one of two things. The first was, I can't find an EOS implementer who's willing to work with a law firm. And I'm like, okay, well, that just, it's like a knife through my heart. I love attorneys. Why doesn't everybody love attorneys? And then the second thing they said was, I found someone, but they don't understand the legal industry. They just don't get how we work. They don't get the bar rules. They don't understand the intricacies of the law. Technically they don't have to, but I got what these guys were saying. So we had implemented EOS at CathCap, and it worked so well. Basically, I worked myself out of a job. And Pam, our integrator, our COO, was running the company, and I didn't have anything to do. And she's like, what are you going to do now? I'm like, I don't know. She said, I think you need to be an implementer for law firms. So that's what I did. So I went out, I became an EOS implementer. I am the only EOS implementer in the US, in the world, that works exclusively with law firms. And I'm only one person, and I can't handle all the law firms that are out there. So I went to EOS and I said, okay, law firms need this and we need to get to more of them. And they said, all right, You can use our intellectual property to write a book. So I wrote a book called Scaling Law. It's all about what it's like to implement EOS in a law firm. And they said you can start the first affinity group ever for EOS. And so I did. It is a community also called Scaling Law for law firms that are implementing EOS. And you can go in and learn things. So there are video lessons, not only about EOS, but also some of our partners have put things in there about how to hire and retain employees. CAFCAP is putting things in there about financial things. And then we've got webinars. We have people coming on to talk about things that are interesting, and eventually we'll have live events. Probably, just maybe small masterminds. We're not entirely sure about that. But it's all built around EOS because at some point, firms need to grow bigger than the capacity of the owner. They can't do that without some kind of system and framework to build on. Was that a bigger ball of wax than what you were expecting?
No, actually, I didn't know what to expect. So couldn't get surprised because I didn't have any idea. But yeah, I mean, it's I'm familiar with the EOS. I'm a big fan of Vern Harnish, who really started all this scaling up stuff probably 30 or 40 years ago. And I like it. I mean, we use it. We use a lot of the scaling up stuff at Filma, and I teach a lot of it, in different ways. I think it's and I hadn't read the EOS book, to be honest with you, but I would think it's like most of the other stuff scaling up is because Gino kind of got a lot of his stuff from Vern Harnish and just kind of simplified it, I think.
He did. And I've talked to Vern about this because I'm in EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, which Vern started.
Right.
And this year I'm the accelerator chair. So I am the person that is helping in Fort Worth businesses that are under $1 million scale up over $1 million. And, we currently use the scaling up curriculum to help them do that. And I've had the discussion with Vern. Gino took a lot of what Vern had to use as inspiration for EOS.
Yeah.
And Vern has said scaling up is really great for larger companies. And it's awesome for manufacturing. And he said we need to change some of the accelerator content. EOS is better for it because the companies are less complicated.
Right.
And EOS is less complicated and fits the model better.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I would say under 10, under 20 million, I think EOS is probably better suited. I think when you get over that, I think you could go either way. And of course I'm biased because, I studied under Vern. So I mean I've got that inbred bias, which I admit. But either one of them is great, especially when you don't have anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And frankly, I don't care which one you use. I just care that you use something and that you stick with it.
Yeah. But that's so funny though, Brooke, because that's, I've been doing this 16 years, Pillman, masterminds, coaching, all this stuff. And I look back over the years and what were the ones I watched some of the masterminds go for like 300,000 a year to like $30 million a year. And some of them just kind of might go from 300,000 to like 2 or 3 million. And then they kind of plateau. And the question is why? And it's the same answer you came up with. It's execution. It's a lack of execution, which is usually, in my opinion, it falls on the leader. Leaders are always the biggest bottleneck on anything. You can never go to higher than your leadership from the top. Nobody's going to go above you. I mean, so it starts with the leader, I think, and not just a rah-rah guy, but somebody that can be focused and laser focused. I always think laser focus and pushing forward. I mean, that's why I love, and I guess EOS has this, but I'm like really big into quarterly strategic planning and doing projects every quarter.
Absolutely.
And that way you can just nibble with that elephant, I mean, what I do every year with my companies is I sit down and what are the 5 main things I want to try to accomplish next year in a broad paintbrush.
Right.
And then I figure out what little projects can I do under each one that will get us there? We might do I try to work on 2 or 3 projects every quarter and try to get as much as I can done. And it seems like it just gets done quicker and everybody's focused. And then you got accountability, you got alignment. All those things are important. I'm sure you covered it in your book. I'd like to, have you got the book with you?
What, scaling law or
Yeah, yeah.
EOS?
Scaling law.
Well, there's sort of one right there.
Like, I'd like to know what the table of contents is. Like, can you tell me what? I know I didn't prepare you for this, and if you don't have access, that's fine. But I would just like to hear what the table of content.
Yeah. So the table of contents, I can absolutely tell you that.
And I think that'll help people if they're listening, whether or not they would like to get a copy, which I think they should. But what I'm saying that I always like to look at the table of contents before I buy a book. That's just me. I mean, I know it don't really tell you everything, but it's just, I don't know. I'm funny like that.
The book is broken down into 3 parts. The first is like the problem. And the second part is about EOS. And the third part is about sustaining success.
Okay.
So when you look at the first part, I talk about the wake up call. So kind of recognizing if you have hit that ceiling. You were talking about you can only grow as much as the leader. And I think you're right. I think you can only grow as much as the leader, but I think that you can hit that ceiling as the leader, as an individual. I think all your other leaders, I think the other individuals in your firm can hit the ceiling. I think you can hit the ceiling as a department. And I think you can hit the ceiling as a firm as a whole. And then I talk about the vision. Like, you're here, this is what it's like at the ceiling. Here's what it's like on the other side. And then I talk about letting go and the problems of delegation, because
It's a big problem.
it's an issue.
I think lawyers are worse about it too, for some reason, especially really good lawyers, smart lawyers, because they're
Mhm.
so perfectionists.
And I talk about that. And I talk about all the justifications, the really, really good justifications for not letting go. And especially as an attorney, my license is on the line. If I delegate this and it's done wrong, I can get disbarred and my family is going to starve. Yeah. And then I go a little deeper into that and I talk about some of what's happening in your mind and rationalization and how to start letting go. So that's what the first part of the book is about. The second part is all about EOS. I kind of do an overview of the process. And then I talk about the 6 pillars. I talk about having a vision. What is that firm that you really want? I talk about people, how to build a team you can actually trust. Ken, how much time do you hear? How much time do you spend listening to attorneys grinch about their team?
All the time.
I can't find good people. I can't keep good people.
Yeah.
My people aren't doing what they're supposed to do. I got a whole chapter about that.
Yeah. And that's, Vern told me one time, he said, great companies are not built on the back of average people.
Mm-mm.
You gotta have a high percentage of A players. And if
And
you don't, you're in trouble.
you are not going to achieve anything as one person.
No.
You cannot do it without a great team. And a great team is different in every single firm. So you've got to figure out what your great team is, because Ken, I guarantee you, your great team at Pilma would be a disaster in my company, just because we're different companies. We
Yeah.
need different things.
Yeah.
So then I've got a chapter on data and why successful firms run on numbers and not gut feel. Then I talk about solving problems, issues, and how to solve them at the root. Not, so many times firms kind of treat the symptom.
Yeah.
So I was in a session recently with a client, and we were doing what's called IDSing, identifying, discussing, and solving problems. And they had an employee who was being incredibly helpful, doing all this stuff that was outside of their job description. And so they're IDSing and they're like, oh, the problem is we haven't ever told him what his job is.
Yeah.
They're like, the solution is we just need to really outline for him what his job is. I'm like, back it up. That's not the root problem.
Yeah. Have you ever read or practiced the five whys when you're trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
what's going on? You ask why five
Yeah.
times and you'll get to the root of it. It reminded me of law school. No, it really did. The Socratic method, because
Mhm.
they would stand you up and ask you a question, and then they want to know why. And if you couldn't do it, then they keep you standing, and they ask somebody else. And then they might get it, and then they say, okay, why? They were doing the five whys. I didn't understand that at the time. I was a little kid. Yeah, I mean, and I use it in marketing. I'm always thinking about, I use this, so what?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, we're tough. So what? What does that mean? Or whatever you're trying to differentiate
Right.
yourself. So what? So what? So what till you get down to the root? What is the real benefit? Not just a
Right.
feature.
Not just the surface. And I was like, guys,
Yeah.
if you do that, somebody else is going to show up in 3 weeks. This same problem is going to come back in 3 weeks or a month with somebody else's name on it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a new problem. It's going to be the same problem.
Yeah.
And so we dug down. I'm like, the problem is that you don't have a process to tell people what their stinking jobs are.
Yeah. You got to have SOPs if you're going to scale. I mean, I tell
Well,
people that. I mean, you got to.
and that's the next chapter. It is really about how process makes your firm scalable, but also about how process sets you free and makes your firm more fun. Because there is nothing fun about rework. There is nothing fun about going back and telling people they haven't done things correctly and you've got to redo it. And nobody really likes to be the heavy. And then the last chapter in that section of the book is all about how to actually get traction, how to create that accountability. So you were talking about rocks. You were talking about your 90-day projects. And one of the really big things is if you say yes to those 3 to 5 things, that also means that you're saying no to everything else. You said more seems to get done. The reason more seems to get done is because you're completing those 3 to 5 things
Yeah.
and you're saying no to everything else. So you have 3 to 5 complete projects and not 17 incomplete projects.
Yeah.
And how do you create that accountability? How do you have kind of effective meetings that make sure people are on track? And then the third part of the book is about sustaining it. You know, will it actually work in my law firm? What are the problems that I'm going to encounter if I do this? What does it cost? And not just in money, but in time. There's a whole chapter on will I outgrow EOS? Because people have that question. And then I talk about, what really matters, getting your life back.
Yeah.
And so that's really the book.
Another thing too is what you're trying to build is a machine that does not depend on you for
Mm-hmm.
everything. And with the new wave of all this equity money and people and the baby boomers hitting and people thinking about selling, that's the key. You need to do this to get it ready so that when you sell it, you can get great multiples of your EBITDA.
Yeah.
Because the less dependent is on you, the more it's going to be worth, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
that's
And
the
that was
truth.
what this book was all about. Exit on top.
Yeah, yeah.
When I wrote this one, it was all about exiting. And I had a great conversation yesterday with Chad Dudley. And we were talking about when he sold out and what he did. And he is such an entrepreneur. And
Oh yeah.
everything that he built so many companies, and none of them were dependent upon him being in there full time, all day, every day.
Yep.
He kept saying, I built, Vista with, and I built the marketing company with. And that was really important because they weren't solely dependent upon him. he had a system in place, and that enabled him to get that great exit from his law firm and his other companies because, you know, he's in a let's sell out to PE.
Yeah, they're doing an event, I think, 1st of May in Baltimore, a one-day event that him and Tim Mackey are doing, I think.
Hmm.
I'm thinking about going. I don't know. Just find out what's going on. There's a lot of movement. I mean, there's a lot of movement. And so I think what you're doing is now, I mean, it's always been important, but I think it's more important now than ever if you want to get the best dollar for your business. I mean, you've got to, and then you might decide. I mean, I had one Pilma member that was thinking about selling, and I told him, I said, you got to get your house in order. And so he went out and got some help and got it to where it was less dependent on him. Now he don't want to sell it because he spends 3 months in the Caribbean on his catamaran, and he's got the lifestyle he wants, and he's fine because it doesn't depend on him anymore. But before, it was just killing him. You
It
know.
was sucking the life out of him.
Yeah,
Yeah. And a lot of times you said, get your house in order. Doing that is kind of like, have you ever seen that TV show, Love It or List It?
yeah,
That's what you're doing.
yeah.
Get
That's
it
true.
ready to sell, and then you can decide.
Yeah,
I did that with my family's firm. We got it ready to sell. And damn, if my brother didn't fall in love with that firm. And he was like, yeah, no, we're not selling.
yeah. That happens. I mean,
And great. And, I don't want to just concentrate on selling firms because there are so many people that also want to buy firms.
yeah,
Getting your house in order means that you understand better how to run a firm, which means that you can see the opportunity when you go out to buy a firm. You can look at it and say, I see all the inefficiencies. I see all the ways that when I fold this into my machine that's running really well, I see all the places where I can increase case value, lower these costs, make this run better and turn a firm that's doing this amount and netting this amount into a firm that's grossing this amount and netting this amount because you can really see the possibilities.
for sure.
Or do you want to start your own MSO?
Yeah,
Do you want to separate your law firm from the back office? That's what Chad did. And they've gotten to the point they can now take on a new client in 60 days. They can take all of your back office and totally onboard you in 60 days.
that's wild.
Isn't it wild? That's a great business to be in. And if your house is in order, maybe you can get in that business too.
Yeah,
Or maybe you realize you don't want to be in that business. When we look at potential clients, we kind of divide them into two categories: builders and technicians. And the builders are the people who want more, and the technicians are the people who just love to practice law.
yeah. I was a builder.
You were a builder,
Yeah,
but there are people
well,
who
yeah,
love to practice. They're great clients for an MSO.
yeah,
Go take care of my whole back office. I don't want to deal with that.
yeah. Let me go try
Let
my
me
cases.
just be the incredible attorney I am and try my cases.
No, I agree. So you're going to be speaking at our summit in May. Hopefully, this will go out before then. But if it don't, tell them what they missed or what they're going to miss if they don't show up to hear you. I don't know when these things. I don't know when they air. I do so many ahead of. I don't know. So we'll figure it out.
Well, and Ken, you and I haven't fully talked, so I haven't absolutely nailed down exactly what I'm going to talk about, but I am going to talk about EOS and how it builds the framework for you to be able to scale. And I think, were we going to concentrate on talking about getting the right people in the right seats?
I
Or
think
were
so.
we going to talk about how doing this enables you to be less
I like
necessary?
I like getting the people in the right seat because that's the great thing about me doing all these masterminds and talking to lawyers every day is I get a pulse of what's keeping them up at night. And right now, what's keeping them up at night is getting good people and keeping them. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And then trying to make a decision: do I want to do a lateral or do I want to come in and get somebody outside to do a job like a management job, a mid-level management job. So I think I just got through the whole month of March. I was at 7 different groups, and that was an overriding theme. That and AI. That's the 2 things everybody's talking about right now. But the hiring stuff's been around for a while. But so now the 2 big things that everybody's, and now the third thing is the equity stuff that's coming in, and what does this mean for me, and and should I or should I not explore it? So those 3 things I think are the hot topics right now, and they change, but right now that's the hot topics. If you want to get some viewers on Facebook or Instagram, start talking about that, or YouTube. Start talking about those 3 things. You'll get a lot of looks and a lot of likes, a lot of sharing, because that's what's hot right now. Really is. Yeah. So if somebody wants to get it, I'm looking forward to seeing you there, and you sharing your wealth of knowledge in this field. If somebody wants to talk to you before then, how can they get up with you, Brooke?
I think the easiest way is scalinglaw.com.
All right. Good deal. Good deal. Thank you so much. And until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success. Thank you, Brooke.
Thanks, Ken.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.